Welcome, Mark Sillay.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for inviting me. How many people have seen me turn before? Okay.
On YouTube.
On YouTube, huh? Okay, did you learn anything?
For me, it was a little bit different than what I'm used to.
Okay.
I enjoy watching it.
All right, well, what I was asked to do tonight, right, is I was asked to do a demonstration on the wood slicing. So we're going to do the basic 5 cuts. We're going to do spindle work. Then we can go into end grain bowls and side grain bowls. So that you should be able to start, after your last cut, you should be able to start maybe at 400, right? And so when I teach, I've been doing this for about 18, 19 years, is I go all over the country and I teach and I hold workshops, right? And what I find is that 95% of all the woodturners, even if they've been turning for 30 years, can't successfully slice the wood and make their beads, coves, flats, discs, and points. They're subject to sandpaper, right? And so when you're subject to sandpaper, as soon as you touch sandpaper on a little finial or something, now you've taken away all the detail. Right? So most of the stuff that I do, if I'm working here with gaboon ebony or something, I'll slice it and we'll put the finish on it. There will be no sandpaper used. Anyway, so I teach on 2x4s. I'm down here in Tucker, Georgia, and people are welcome to come to my shop. Just give me a call. And if you have any questions or something, you can always call me up and say, Mark, can we do FaceTime? We'll do a FaceTime. I got a little rack over my leg. Instead of just trying to explain things, I can show things right on the iPhone or the iPad, right there, and answer your questions. And it's cheaper than driving for 2 hours back and forth across town. Anyway, I got started in 9th grade, right? My shop teacher didn't know anything about wood turning that I know now. You know, it was all, we had to make things up in the drafting class. We brought the blueprints down and we had to make it in metal shop. We had to make it in wood shop. That was the old industrial training that we had back then. I'm 77 and still hanging in there. Okay, tonight, let's just start off, right? And everything that I train on is usually 2x4s. There's 2 reasons for that. Number one, if you're not using the tool technically correctly, the 2x4 is soft and will rip and tear and give you instant feedback that, uh-oh, something's not right. Number 2, if you do happen to get a catch, the 2x4 will rip and shatter and tear, right, where a piece of hardwood, right, you get a piece of dogwood on there, cherry and maple and things like that. Not quite as forgiving. Okay. Questions anytime, stop me, whatever. This is really simple. So we're going to start out with a little 2x4. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to understand that we cannot take this tool below the center of rotation. If the tool goes below the center of rotation, what happens? It catches and it's coming up past your chin or somewhere. Okay, the second thing is we don't use our hands in wood turning. Right? We only use the 4 motions of the hips. So if I want the tool to go to the left, I move my hip to the right. If I want the tool to go up, I move my hip down. I raise my hip if I want the tool to go down. Everything's opposite across this. And you'll also notice, right, that I don't teach this. My hands are always on my body. As soon as you separate your hands from your body, you're fighting this. Because this tool doesn't go through these growth rings exactly perfectly and all that. Okay, here we go. A, we anchor the tool. This is a roughing gouge, spindle roughing gouge. There's the bevel, B, right? So A, we anchor the tool. B, we get the bevel up there and rub the bevel. And then C, we're going to create a cut line, in this case, by raising it off the bevel, right? And creating a cut line. Let's see how this lathe is going to operate. Alright, it's spinning. The left hand has nothing to do with wood turning. The only thing it does is hold the tool down or acts as a pivot point. This is a farmer's plow. Right? So anyway, here's what we're doing. Lock it on here. We never hold our tools this way. We only hold our tools off the end. And if we hold it this way and put sideways pressure, you're going to wind up with carpal tunnel. All right, so we always hold the tool off the end, and we can put one finger over here, put our hand wherever it's comfortable. All right, you get your sweet spot on your body. A, anchor the tool. B, rub the bevel. C, bring it up. Bingo, the cut line appears. And here's my body back and forth. And square becomes round. Now can the camera, or everybody can see this? Look at the wood. Can everybody see that? See how shattered it is?
See if you'll get on this.
Can you see that? Okay, why is the wood shattered?
Terry, you're not shear cutting to one time.
Right, it's a scrape. So, we now have just learned something. That wood can never come into a wood turning tool. No matter which one it is, it's always a scrape. So, if we want to change our attitude, right, and learn how to slice wood, then what we have to do is we have to orient every blade on every tool so that the blade is always in line with the rotation. It's just that simple. This is a scrape. This is a slice. So here we go. Okay, so now this hand only holds the tool down, right? I can have it up here, I can have it down here, or whatever. I make my body triangle. A, I anchor the tool. You lower that tool rest just a little bit. A, I anchor the tool. B, I rub the bevel. I come forward. The cut line appears. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to put the pressure down the tool and let it ricochet off the bevel. No sanding required. Peace. So now, remember I was standing way over here because there's my bevel. Now I got to stand way over here because now I'm rubbing my bevel here. I know of nobody that can stand in front of a lathe and turn wood because it's not physically possible if you're going to do the fine slicing. Okay, so now we're going to stand here, we make our body triangle, we rub the bevel, we make our cut line, and we do what? We just squeeze forward. I let the motor do all the work. All I do is hold and guide the tool. All wood turning tools are steered, left to right. A little red wagon, a tiller on a sailboat. So, as I'm going forward, right, if I want to control the depth of the cut line, right, then as I'm going forward, right, I do what? I just lean my hip to the left. I lean my hip to the right. I lean my hip to the left. All wood turning tools do this. So that's all you have to do. And again, you don't watch the tool. What do you watch? Once the tool is engaged, you don't look at the tool. Now you look right up here at the cut line, because that's what I'm drawing with. The smoother you move your body, the smoother shape you get. You do it from both sides. Any questions on the roughing guide? Okay, now, when I went uphill into the grain, I get a little tear out, don't I? So if we're going to make a cove, we've got to go from both sides equally to the middle. That was just to give you an idea about moving your hips. All right. Let's just do this. We can just pass this thing around here.
Bob, the only problem is he just cut the sails of your sandpaper way down. But if you sharpen it using your tools, you'll still be a big hit.
Well, I'll tell you what. You know what's interesting is I did the very same thing when I started out. You know, I was in a basement. I never had any lessons. I didn't know it was on YouTube. I wasn't even aware of YouTube at that time, I don't think. And so I struggled for 4 years in a basement trying to figure out all this wood turning stuff. And in the process, because I didn't like things that were happening, I figured out ways to make it cut smoother. And so that's how I got into the, quote, wood slicing business. And again, I just tightened that, but before I spin that, I have a little doubt. Did I really cinch it down? No, I didn't. See that? Whenever you get those little premonitions, you know, man, follow up on them.
And just a reminder to everybody, we are going to have a hands-on class with Mark. We're trying to work out where we're going to have that and how many people we have. Last I heard, we had a lot more people than we had lathes.
Well, here's another thing. I always travel with a lathe in my truck too. But if 2 or 3 of you want to get together, come out to my shop or something, you know, you're welcome to. Tim's been out there, you know. I can horrify you here or there, either way.
Yeah, Mark will let you mess up for a while, and then finally he'll grab hold of my elbow anyway, and he'll move it for me. So, this is the way I want you to do it.
Okay. So let's get this round again. So now we're going to go to the spindle gouge. And we're going to we're gonna learn how to slice beads, coves, flats, discs, and points, the 5 shapes of wood turning. Everything is made up of those shapes. That's it. Right? And again, 99% of all of your wood turning can be done with 3 tools. There's no need for a lot of tools. I gathered a lot of them, and I just use a couple of them for anything that I do. Okay, here we go. Here's the rules. Right? If this is north and my flute faces to the west, then the tool can only enter the wood west of north towards Seattle, Washington. If the flute faces to the east, then the tool can only enter east of north towards Bangor, Maine. No exceptions. If this wood is spinning and I have my tool to the west and my flute to the east, can the camera see this right here?
I think yours is what you want to zoom in on. Okay. Where they can see it.
Okay, can you see that?
Gotcha.
Okay, so if I have that and this spins, it's a screw back or a catch because I violated the east-west rule. That's upon entry to the wood. So when we enter the wood, let me get another little thing around do this here. Okay, across the top of the flutes, for today's session, we're going to call this 12 o'clock. This is the 12 o'clock position, whether it's here or this way. It's vertical on the flutes. So if I'm going this way, after I make contact, I stick the point, then I'm going to twist the tool to 1 o'clock. And that puts the cut on the lower blade. The point, just like the point on the farmer's plow, the point pushes the cut line. The curve of the tool lifts and curls the wood just like the plow lifts the dirt, rolls it over. If that horse had to lift all that dirt all day long, he'd be dead. Right? So if we go this way towards Bangor, Maine, then after I stick it at 12, I have to roll it back to 11 to put it on the lower blade. It cuts at 11 or 1. So when you put a 2x4 on there and you get it round, then the first thing you want to do is say, oh, what's my east-west rule? Well, if I'm going this way, I'm going towards Seattle, Washington, so I'm going to stick it at 12, twist it to 1 o'clock, and lean in. And as I lean in, I have to arc it toward the center of rotation. This tool does not travel in a straight line. A bowl gouge does not travel in a straight line. As the diameter decreases, you have to keep following it or you lose the cut line. Here's an example. Now if I just push that forward, boom, see it slides off the cut line. You see woodturners, they're just doing this. They don't know how to use the tool. They have no idea of how the tool works. Okay, here we go. We're going to stick 12, 1, out to the center. Take a 1/16 of an inch, east-west. I'm going towards Bangor, Maine. Stick it at 12, twist it to 11, out to the center. Go back over here, east-west. 12, 1, out to the center. 12, 11, out to the center. And as you will see, anybody wants to come up here, they're welcome to come up here. We'll pass this around. There's no sanding required. What about that garbage in the middle? How are you going to get it out? Anybody know? Because this is on your finial. That's going to look ugly. How do you get it out?
Up back to 12.
Thank you. Everybody hear that? You go rotate your tool back to 12. Okay, so that it's out here at 1 o'clock. I'll just make another cut. 12, 1, arc to the center. Now when I get down here, where the point of my tool is pointed directly at the center of rotation, I just roll it back to 12. 12, 11, arc to the center, and when my tool is right down there, I roll back to 12. I've still got a little thing, I'll go back to the other side, and I roll back to 12, and it's pristine clean. Now I am limited by the angle on my spindle gouge is how deep I can go. I can't go any deeper in here because the front edge is gonna rub on this other side and make a scrape. Yes, what was your question? Or you didn't have? Okay. Now, I'm gonna show you this. This is for the advanced woodturners, right? And don't do this unless you truly have somebody around you the first time and you truly understand this, right? If you wanna go deeper, then you can use a one-sided tool. Very simply made. Take a brown piece of steel, put it on an 8-inch wheel. It automatically makes an oval. Turn around, make a convex back on it, and you're in business. So now when I go in between shapes, you see, this tool here comes out like that. This tool here is almost like a knife blade. So if I want to go deeper, right, then I'm still going to operate this at what? 1 o'clock. I go down there at 1 o'clock, and when the point is right there, then I roll back to 12. I'm at 11. And I roll back to 12, see if I can take it in a little farther. So when we pass that around, you look at the V-cut, and you'll see that it's pretty clean. Now the danger is this. If you take this 1/10 of a degree past vertical, the top blade catches. That's why I call it the suicide tool. Because you got to be very steady. And if you want, right, you can pass this around too. Just pass it around the room. That's how I sharpen my spindle gouge. It's convex on the back and has a parabolic curve on the front. And that way you can make all 5 shapes. Okay. So this is a basic V-cut. It's used to remove material or make a straight line cut. So now we're going to advance to the cove. Yeah, you can pass it around if you want. So now, people say, well, guess what? I can make the cove real simple. See how it's all shattered up? Because that's a scrape, isn't it? Okay, to make a cove, we have 4 moves we have to make simultaneously. First of all, we put the heel of our hand on the tool rest. This gives our body a rotational point when we go left to right. So if I take my hip to the right, the tool's going to the left. I'm going to slide my tool forward through my hand like a pool cue. Because just like in the V-cut, the tool operates by pushing the cut line with the point. So We're gonna be at 12 o'clock, we're gonna do our east-west rule. We're gonna stick it, then we're gonna twist it to 1. On a cove, the tool has to end up above the wood. On a V-cut or a bead, it has to end up at the center of rotation. So if it has to end up above the wood, that means as I'm going in there, I have to do what? I have to drop my hip and the handle to make the tool go up. I have to rotate my hip to the right to make the tool go to the left. And I'm going to twist the tool because when I'm starting right here with the point, it's directly in line with the rotation, isn't it? As I go through the cove, I'm going to twist the tool so that this left side of the blade now is in line with the rotation. Here we go. Take a 16th of an inch. East-west rule. Stick it at 12. Twist to 1. Push. Lean. Drop and twist. See the tool coming right up above the wood? 12. 1. Push. Lean. Drop and twist. We're going to go over here. Now I have to do what? My hip has to go to the left to make the tool go to the right. East-west rule. Stick it at 12. Twist back to 11. Push, lean, drop, and twist. 12, 11. Push, lean, drop, and twist. I'll go back to the other side to even it up. I guess I got a little line here. We'll take it out. Okay, so that's how we slice a cove. No sanding required. Maybe a little bit right here where I joined. Okay, now we're going to do a bead. What's the one reason that woodturners can't turn beads? Watch my video. Only one reason. How many people in here can successfully turn a ball or a bead? No, I don't see too many hands go up.
We're afraid you want us to demonstrate.
Now that you mentioned that, Tim.
I can't. That's why we bring you in.
By the time I get it looking right, it'll be a lot smaller.
Dan, did you move up to this area or are you still down in?
No, we just drove it
Oh, okay.
because of you.
Because of me.
Uh-huh.
Well,
The
thank
best beading tool you can get is Mark.
No, again, here's what's interesting. Right? This is nothing against Woodcraft or Highland Hardware or any of these stores. Right? The first thing that people want to do, they want to, I want to take a bowl class. They come in and they pay $95. They take a bowl class. The instructor finishes up the work. They take it home and they're an accident waiting to happen because they do not know how to use the tools. The very first thing I tell people is learn to put the foundation on the house. If you learn how to use the tools, then it's irrelevant. You can make anything that you can imagine safely. Safely. I've gone around the country now for at least 15 of my 18 or 19 years. I have seen so much in hands-on classes you can't even believe. I could just fill a book. Unbelievable. On my way back from Louisiana 2 weeks ago, I stopped at Bob Horn's shop over in 5 Points, Alabama. He's been turning for, 14, 15 years. He did one of the cardinal rule do not do, right? You never have cloth around a lathe. Ever. he was cold in his shop. So he put on a pair of cotton gloves, right? And he was sanding. Now you see the edges of my, can the camera see the edges of my jaws? See how they're rounded? I've taken them off and put them on a grinder. Can you see that? Okay. So now, if my knuckle hits this, if I slip and my knuckle hits it, it won't chew out the bone. It'll bruise me, but it's not going to cut all the way in. Right? Or it's not going to have a tendency, right? It doesn't have a sharp edge. It's not going to catch as much. But anyway, he had on his glove and got up there too close to sand. It pulled his hand in, right? All 4 fingers messed up. I mean, this whole thing, he's lucky he didn't lose his fingers completely. Anyway, stuff goes on all the time. All right. The reason that woodturners can't make a bead is one simple thing. Wrong tool entry. That's it. Everybody else can push the tool and they can do all that stuff. They can make nice curves, right? I'll just give you an example. Somebody will go up to the lady and go, oh, I want to make a bead. Okay, so, I can make a bead, but it usually has a sharp edge. It's not a ball. The only way, if this is a clock, everything's a function of my bevel. It's not a function of the handle. It's a function of where that bevel is. The bevel is always 90 degrees to the wood on a bowl gouge or a spindle gouge or whatever. So, if you start the bevel 90 degrees at 3 o'clock, as you push the point around the ball, the bevel has to be 90 degrees to the 12 o'clock hand. No exceptions. So, if I want to make a ball here, I'm going to go out here a little bit wider. I'll make a V cut. Okay, that's going to give my tool a place to go. I don't want to jam into that front wall here. My finial's going to fly off the lathe. Okay, so now we'll just mark there's the equator. So what do I have to do? I have to come over here. I have to do what? I have to lay the bevel on the equator. Create the cut line. Then I push forward, around, and down into the center of rotation. And I get half of the ball. I come back, this may be a little short right here, but I come back, I lay it on the equator, I create the cut line, and I push it forward, around, and down to the center of rotation. And our surface should be sliced. No, I don't need that. I watch YouTube videos and I found out you just do this. I'll do it this way. I still end up in the same place. And what happens up here? What happened where I started it this way right here? This is a scrape, isn't it? So the top is now all shattered up. See where it's all split out? Wasn't sliced. So if I start with the blade in line, then it's a slice. So if you have a little tiny finial or something, you're trying to make a bead, and now it's all crapped up or split out, then you go to sand, and now you lose your shape. Again, we'll just do that. Here's another trick. People will stand in front of the lathe, and the ending position is way over here. They try to come over here, and they fall over. So, if you don't want to fall over, you can come over here. There's my ending position. I leave my left leg planted, I lean forward, I hit the equator, and then I come back around, I'm in my stand-up comfortable position. Okay, now that we can all do beads and coves and V-cuts, what's next? A flat cut. Okay. I can make a flat cut simply just by doing this. Can the camera see those radial lines? You see those little radial lines right there? Okay.
Got it.
Got it? See those little radial lines? Anytime in your wood turning experience at the lathe, if you ever see radial lines on your work, what does that mean? What does it mean? It means you used your left hand. You dragged it. You dragged the farmer's plow sideways. There was no bevel contact. Whether it's a bowl gouge, rough and gouge, or whatever. If you ever see those little lines, put that hand back behind you and do it one-handed and you'll smooth it right up. Inappropriate use of that left hand. Okay, now the way we do it is you've heard this before, we lock the heel of our hand on the tool rest. That becomes our pivot point. I lay the blade on there so that the cut comes halfway down the blade. Can you see that? Where it's halfway down the blade? Then with my body triangle here, I do what? I just slowly rotate my hip to the left. Now it's sliced pretty much pristine clean right there. When you do your flat cut, when you first start out, let's say we're making a furniture leg, the first thing I would do is I would test with my roughing gouge from the left and the right. We don't know how this wood came through the sawmill and the planer. If the grain is absolutely perfectly horizontal, you might get a good cut both ways. But usually, right, you're going to find one way or the other. If you've got supporting grain, you're going to get a clean cut. If you go up into the broom fiber, right, you get a little fuzz, just like you're running a board through a planer. Right? One way you get it smooth, the other way you get it fuzz if the grain is tilted a little bit. So whichever way, like I got a little bit of fuzz right there. Now if I go the other way, right, then it should, if the fibers are, I'm not going up into the hilt of the fiber, then we should be able to, you know, now, I'm going to leave that on there. When we pass this around, you're going to look at the V-cut. This was going, I was doing the proper procedure, but it wasn't my fault that I was going uphill into the fibers. When I went downhill with the fibers, supporting, it's absolutely pristine clean. This was my cove cut. We got into it to make the bead, right? You can see the bead cuts. Right? So now we're going to go into we've done beads, coves, flats. Now we're going to do a point Let me put another, we'll pass this around, we'll put another one in there. Another thing, if you're doing this between centers, don't make your piece so thin that if you do put a little pressure on it, it's going to fly off and come into your face. Right? And if you're using a chuck, make sure that you never point the tool this way. Stay when you get up close to that chuck, because if you're doing a grab, it's going to go right into that chuck.